Hi everyone, George here, the editor of the Sales Transformation Podcast. If you're not aware already, I wanted to tell you that this is part 2 of Phil's discussion with Carl Day, so make sure you go back and listen to last week's episode if you haven't already for all the context. And if you've already listened to part 1, then please go ahead and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Can I just ask a question, Carl? Because the layer that you had that was completely unexpected was the pandemic. And I just wonder whether, because you had the psychological issues to do with people having to work from home and living, there were a whole level of anxiety that I think permeated. This is for everyone.
Yeah.
Not just at Apogee, but you've got all of these sort of challenges plus the pandemic, and so to try and effect a transformation with that happening at the same time must have made it more difficult. Would you say, or do you think it was easier? I don't know.
Both. In some aspects, it made it incredibly hard. In another way, it gave me some breathing space and time.
Right. Yeah.
In respect of making it easy, obviously, if you're an office services business and the entire country is no longer working in an office, it's pretty hard to then go and obviously generate a sale. But what we didn't do, and what we didn't do was take the low hanging fruit. We took the long term view. Again, because of who we were owned by, we were able to take a long-term view and say, let's not, take some short-term income by sort of manipulating contracts to bring in short-term income. Let's take the long-term view and not sort of kill tomorrow's sale. So I was unable to do that, and I think that the fact that there is obviously a huge expectation on delivery of sales. So that gave me time to spend development time with the salespeople. So we brought in, through that pandemic year, the sort of 2020 into 2021, we brought in a lot of third-party development. We
did
ideas. Yourself, you worked with us, brought in some people who would literally just give the salespeople ideas about how to communicate, good written communication with the customer.
Yeah.
Now, I did obviously shoot a bit wide of the mark and probably went a bit too academic in some respects. And I brought Liz in from...
Oh, right. Oh, yes, you did. And she's speaking at GST.
I can't be there because I'm on holiday.
I know.
Yes, and I saw Liz speaking, and I'm a huge fan of Liz's. I think she's so, I love the stuff she does, and so we brought Liz in, and that didn't work online. It wasn't an online.
Right.
I think Liz needs to be in front of people, and so we tried, and I think so that gave me the opportunity really to set the benchmark that everyone needs some development. We need to be, and also I think the salespeople started to see some benefit from the learning that they were having.
Yeah,
because there haven't been a lot of that. So that in that respect, COVID was a help. And the pandemic was a help, because obviously it's very difficult when you come into a business and there's expectation, you want to change the sales force, you want to transform the sales force, you want them to learn these skills. It's very difficult to do that and deliver at the same time. Or deliver the same number. So we have subsequently managed to balance that, I think, quite well. And again, I put that down to the superb team that I have around me. Who are all driven by the same intent and respect to that. So I think it was it was hard though. It was hard. I think the hardest thing for me from a COVID perspective was, you've just joined a business, you've got a team of sort of 200 people, and and you can't go out and see them.
I know. You don't have that, and you're very much a people person,
Yeah,
Carl.
and
You know,
that was really hard.
that was hard. Yeah,
That was really hard. And I think that, yeah, that also with regards to the people that presented all the other challenges that everyone faced after
yeah,
COVID,
you did. But I think what was interesting from our side is that you're right. Obviously you saw sales and revenue being affected by the pandemic, yet you put in a pretty significant investment
Mm,
in the development of your salespeople.
yeah.
And yeah, we were part of that journey. And thank you, Carl, because we needed that revenue as well. But not all not all companies did that.
No.
So so let's move on now. So we talked about the kind of early stages, really difficult, shifting mindsets, getting a right team in place. Perhaps you could just share the journey since then, because I think again, it's been the market's still in decline, arguably,
Yeah.
but you've made a lot of changes, and it'd just be interesting to share
Oh,
between where you were and where you are now. What would you say is, what's the difference?
I think the difference is, so from then, we continue to evolve as a business. So, the decline in print volume has left a gaping hole, and there is still a big infrastructure and business sat behind it. So the need to diversify into to other areas has been there. I think we've had to be quite sort of disciplined in not chasing everything,
Yeah,
and focus on sort of 2 or 3 areas for growth. But one of the I guess the next challenge is when I started, people were very much a single product
yeah,
salespeople, and I think a lot of what we've worked on over the last 2.5 years is people are skilled to be able to manage count with the a portfolio.
a pope. Yeah, that's right. Because I remember when we were doing the kind of developmental work with you, we're talking about sort of some of the concepts like top-box thinking, and we're looking at white space analysis and using that to cross sell and look at other
Yeah,
areas. And we had some really interesting customer interviews as well that we did, with some of your customers that fed into that.
yeah. And I think
It,
something again that we've talked about is as well is that y you have to understand, obviously, what motivates and makes people what they are. And obviously, when you introduce a multiple product portfolio to salespeople that are used to selling single products,
yeah,
very few people, if any, have really mastered it. And
yeah,
we haven't got the luxury of employing a salesperson for every product line we offer
yeah,
with one customer. So it came about, and this is where the wider network or the wider stakeholders were involved, because a lot of that is you need to invest in other areas to generate sales. People.
right,
I think the mistake some people make is, well, we need to increase our sales. Let's employ more salespeople. And my argument was always, well, there's no point in me employing more salespeople unless I can generate more opportunity for those salespeople and support the sale
mm,
they're going to do. So we put a lot of time and energy into what supported the salespeople. So subject matter experts, account, execs to be able to support and continue to. But we did a lot of work about widening your circle of influence within your client, know your customer. So we
yeah,
set some non-negotiables, and then we mapped that through some software or an application, and then teaching the managers to manage in that way. And that, I think, again, that comes down to the hard part. The hard part is not transforming the salespeople. You can motivate the salespeople, you can educate the salespeople, you can put a pay plan in place which shapes behavior. You can do all those things, but if they don't know how to do and they're not managed in a way,
right,
that it all falls flat. So one thing I've noticed is, second you take your eye off or your focus away from the middle management is when it all goes wrong.
That's so
Which for
interesting.
me brings another point is, and this is where this is one of those things that splits the world,
Okay.
and that is office or hybrid. Me, I know that when I've got a sales team who work from an office, they perform a lot better than a sales team who don't. And
That's interesting.
I've yet to see anything that convinces me. I'm sure there's lots and lots of professions and roles and jobs within organizations where working from home is a benefit. I've yet to be convinced of any B2B sales environment where a sale, we're in our industry, we have to create the sale. If we turn the lights off and pull the shutters down, sales don't continue to happen. We don't have a channel. We don't have, people don't buy from a store. We have to go and generate every single sale we make. And I think there is no better way. There's certain things culturally you need to foster that environment. And I think what I've noticed is when people start to slip back working from home 2 days a week, it drops off. The activity drops off. The pipeline slows. The second you sort of then push everyone back, it's a bit. It's just that for me, I've not seen anything to convince me.
Okay.
We're the type of sales that we're in, the type of sales environment that I work in, that people can manage a sales team from home. I don't think that's me being old and prehistoric. I just don't believe that.
Well, a lot of people are doing it. Amazon now, wanting everyone to go full time back to the office, and organizations are asking people to return. But I mean, you've got the data, Carl, so you've seen the pipeline figures. So I don't think it's being old fashioned. It's sort of seeing the results from that sort of human interaction.
And again, can I be a bit controversial?
Yeah, go for it.
Most jobs, unless you're fortunate enough to be in a professional sports person, or being in a celebrity film, TV, most jobs there's a lot of monotony in a job.
Yeah.
Most jobs, even at senior level, no matter what you do, there's an amount of repetition, there's an amount of monotony. And you ask most people, what's the best part about your job? Most people say the people I work with. I love the people I work with. Or they'll love the camaraderie of being in a team. Or when you take that away, people start to think, God, my job's really boring.
Yeah.
It's so dull. And I think that's why after the pandemic, we saw so many people wanting to change jobs. Because they thought, oh, my job's really boring. I think most jobs, if you're sat at home all day on your own, most jobs will become monotonous after a while.
Yeah.
So I think it's the environment, it's the culture of an office, and or any sort of environment where there's a group of people all collaborating to make something happen. That's what makes your job exciting. It's not sitting at home writing a proposal. It's working in the team and why haven't we thought of that before? And perfect opportunity there, and seeing it all come together. I don't ever think you get that at home or on Zoom. Nothing beats to me personally, and certainly I would think my management team would agree that being in the office together and keeping that culture going. You and I, we've had lots of discussions about the importance of culture in a business. And so I can imagine there's probably people listening to it going, oh no, don't.
No, I think there'll be a lot of people there agreeing 100%, Carl. So I don't think you're on your own in this by any means. Okay, can I just come back? I want to talk about the future of sales a bit with you as well. But we talked about cross-selling or not cross-selling, or selling portfolio as opposed to selling a product. If you compare now where you're at to where you were, in the early days, what changes have you seen now? Because I think you have seen a marked improvement in the clients now that are buying multiple kind of services.
Yeah.
I think you shared with me some quite impressive kind of, stats the other day that we met.
When we started, it was about 3% of the sales force had within the fiscal year, about 3% of the sales force had sold multiple products.
Right.
And I think we're about the seventh month through the year, fiscal year, and we were at 76% of the sales force had sold.
Right. That's fantastic.
Multiple services. So we've definitely moved the needle. I think the next step for us is making that sustainable. So we still, one person might create a sale in a different, to a customer in a different product or service line, but the idea is that we make it, embed it so that those multiple levels of sale come in every month, rather than we still have pockets of some people that are doing that. It's like everything. We get our early adopters who just run it, and then we're now in the middle group where we're trying to make it more sustainable, where they balance in their prospecting. And that's what I've started looking at. How can I develop that? How can I educate salespeople to think more? And the only thing I can come up with, because there isn't a sales methodology that educates or teaches people to sell multiple service lines, because very few people have done it. So what we've started looking at is, okay, maybe we put some time management and align that to some sort of business management. So, people, want they look at their sales territory or their customer portfolio more like their own business and think, okay, I need multiple strands of income to come from that. How much of my time am I dedicating to prospecting the right areas? How can I spot when there's an opportunity in this customer? How am I using the resource around me in the right way? So it then becomes about their ability to stakeholder manage. And so the skill set's very different to what we've had in the past. But again, I think the salespeople we've got, they have embraced the change, and I am constantly proud of what I see them do, and because it's not been easy. And of course, like any sales environment, there is always a tendency to revert to what you know, not because you want to, but out of necessity, because that's how you earn your money. But I think so many of them now, even the resistors in the early days that we've kept and that have started to realise that the way they've sold in the past is now why they're not selling as much, because they've not built the longer term opportunities. So, I think that's been the real big change for us again. But also coming back to the management perspective, teaching the middle managers how to manage the multi-service pipeline and understanding the difference. If you look at a new business opportunity, a new business strategic opportunity in print, from literally from cold call through to implementation or close one, at the moment it can be 18 months, 18 months, because there's no urgency behind it. Whereas when some of the IT and the process services we're selling, it can, same value, same profit margin, but they can be 3 months. So having the sales managers understand managing that multi-service pipeline, also having the system guys keep up with the data that we need to read and interpret, because what you need to look at in terms of your data points is very different. So we've all learned a heck of a lot. Probably most of us don't realise how much we have learned. to be honest.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people we talk to sort of don't quite realise what it is that they're doing. It's got them to where they are.
Yeah,
But if you're looking at back on the almost 5-year journey, I think it's been. What are the things that you've been most pleased with, or I was going to use the word most proud of achieving? In
yeah.
the way the transformation journey has taken place, and yeah,
Um, God, I think the one thing that makes me proudest is when you see someone, and I still think this is the most rewarding thing in for me at work, is that everyone loves to win a big sale, of course.
yeah,
But the reward from that is short lived, because we'll know
yeah,
it fails Monday morning, we're back to zero again. But
yeah,
the most rewarding thing for me, I think, is when you see talent in the business that hasn't been recognised, and then you recognise the talent and nurture it and develop, and then you watch them grow and challenge you. And I think that's probably one of the most things I've been pleased and proud of, because I've done so much of it over the last 5 years.
yeah.
And that, that for me, I think that's hopefully someone saw that in me. Mr. Shepherd back in Toshiba, when I went to him and said I want £150,000 to do a master's degree. And he put his trust in me,
He did, yeah, he did.
and a number of things. So I think for me, it's that's probably the thing that makes me proudest. That, look, obviously everyone wants to say they've run their business, but having that faith that, if you do all the right things, even in a market as tough as ours, that you're going to get results. And I think, I can give you lots of stats about the growth and how we've grown certain areas of the business, and even despite what's gone on in the past, and that's the other thing that we've had to teach sales team is, when you're a privately owned business, there's a lot less governance and compliance. It's generally what the boss says you can do. Whereas obviously in an organisation that's not principally owned, and that is owned by a publicly listed giant, there is a lot of compliance and governance that is put in place. And so, things have to be done in certain ways. And so, it'd be very easy to look at the old Apogee and the new Apogee and think, oh, well, yeah, the new Apogee is not as successful as the old Apogee. But to me, the new Apogee has set a foundation to build on that the old Apogee couldn't. And that, to me, is probably, in terms of achievement, is probably the most thing I'm most proud of. Because
it's massive, isn't it? Because it's something that, as you know, so much of my research was based on what are the core values that can help you better predict behavior. And culture and values are so intertwined, aren't they? And I think that it's so difficult to embed, whatever values you believe to be important are in an organization, and quite often they're paid lip service to, and there's a big gap between what's written up on the walls of the office about our values and what transpires in reality. But I think that it's very interesting you say that, because you sound as though that if you that you can predict now a much, how salespeople in the main are going to be acting with your customers, because the values, the systems you've built, the way you've developed the management team to follow through is actually now fully embedded. But obviously it's taken a while to get there.
It is, and I guess I might be stealing your next question here, but it is embedded. There's always going to be an evolution that needs to continue.
Yeah.
And like I've always said, more to my children than anyone else, that never fall into the trap of striving for perfection, because perfection will never come. So,
Yeah.
but strive to be the best you can be. And I think if you're literally looking at something saying, how can I make that better? How can I make that better? How can I make that better? You don't fall into that trap of then having to catch up.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I'm blessed with a very good team of people around me who, even if I were to become complacent and let that gap grow, they wouldn't let me.
Okay.
So I've created a beast, as it were, and which works well because, again, it's you know my thoughts on mental health, Phil, and you know that I'm very respectful of it, but in modern life, it'd be naive of any of us to think that we can go through our entire life without any sort of mental illness. And I don't want to make this about mental health, because there is probably lots of podcasts and lots of people talk a lot more knowledgeably than me about it. But I always think, I'm for humans to always be at their best. That can only ever come from a bottle. We all have our ups and downs, and I think if you build the right sort of team and foster the right sort of culture in that team, you can still perform when people are having those ups and downs. So I joke about it, but no one knows how they're going to feel when they wake up in the morning, and sometimes people have things that happen in their lives, or just have the ups and downs that life brings. And I think, for me, and I don't want to make this all deep, but for me, if you've got the right sort of setup in that team, is no one's ever going to let you fall into that black hole or that, because you've got the people around you that are going to keep it right.
Keep it
And
right.
again, comes back, that to me comes back to that being around people and not doesn't mean hundreds of people, but having the people around you to notice when, well, look, that's strange. Why did they react like that? That's not like them. And being able to put an arm around. So, but I think the next big challenge, the next big thing for me is I want to take what we've learned and start to bring young talent into the business and then put them through a process, and start to create, some younger talent for both us and the profession, really.
Yeah.
You must see it more than I do. People bring young salespeople into a business and they give them an account base and a laptop and say, right, get on with it. And I don't think we do the profession any favors when we do that.
No. It's a big journey that I think we're all on. But I think that what you've kind of alluded to, and you've been very open talking about sort of anxiety and that, and I think you've been very clever in the way that you've used that, that to help you develop yourself. And I think it's quite interesting because you've been always, since I've known you, a very, very people orientated. Even to those days when we're working with the managers, that you could tell that the very fact you've got these incredibly successful, sort of people embarking on this journey, with you on doing that 2-year master's program. I'll never forget that. We've got some fun stories about that. Anyway, I won't go there, but it tells a lot about the respect people have for you, and that you are there for them, and perhaps going through the kind of situations you have in your past has enabled you to become more sensitive to that sort of getting the right support structures in place to allow people. We talk about psychological safety, don't we?
Yeah.
And you've been a great proponent on that on podcasts that we've run, which has been amazing. And that, I'm sure, is a component of the success of the transformation journey that you've helped the organization, on since you've actually joined them. So, when we talk about metaphors for transformation between sort of caterpillars and butterflies, and I would say that the apogee of today is so different to what it was when you kind of inherited a
Yeah.
rather dysfunctional, I can say it, you probably can't say it, but a dysfunctional sales organization. And, you were coming in with such a different approach. And you said it was a critical phase in the organization.
Mm.
And I think you perhaps don't realize. I mean, we work with many different clients. I don't think I've seen many organizations who've had to go through
Mm.
the degree of change, perhaps, that
Mm.
you've taken the organization through, from a product point of view, from a culture point of view, from a, new services point of view. There's been so much in the last 5 years that
Yeah.
you've gone through. So you're a great exemplar of managing a transformation. But I'm sure it's rooted in yourself. I'm sure it's rooted in what's happened within you.
Possibly. I think you have to have a passion for it. And
Yeah.
it's hard, don't you? I mean,
Yeah.
it's been the hardest, certainly been the hardest 5 years of my career, but in many ways the most rewarding.
Yeah.
And there's certainly there's never a dull moment, but I think yeah, you're right. I think you have to have a passion for it. I think if you can't be, you can't head or lead a function of 150 people without liking people.
Yeah.
So and I also think, can I judge myself on this? I'm not a greedy person, which may
Mm.
sound odd to a lot of people as sales director saying I'm not a greedy person. I think, I get enjoyment out of I always have of helping other people and seeing other people do
Thrive.
better.
Yeah.
And I think as a result of that, that serves you well in a sales leadership
Yeah.
function. We've all seen it. Really good salespeople, where companies have tried to retain them, they've put them into leadership roles where they've perhaps been far too single-minded and
Yeah.
and fallen foul of it or failed. So I think probably it's part of that. But I think, yeah, you've got to enjoy what you do, haven't you? And I think I've been lucky enough to be in a role where I do enjoy what I do. It's onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards. Well, on that note, I think we probably ought to draw the podcast to a close. I just want to thank you hugely for taking part, Carl. And I know we've talked about this, doing this over a period of time, actually, haven't we?
Yeah.
But what a journey you've been on, and thanks so much for sharing it with us.
My pleasure. And I mean, as I said, for me, just to I guess to endorse what you guys at particular Consalia have done is, everyone needs that catalyst, don't they? That inspiration. And I think when I first went to that event that Mags told me to, sort of, was 15 years ago now, 15.
It's a while ago, yeah.
Long time ago. And I kind of saw the passion that you guys had for change and sales. I'd never met anyone that was so passionate about sales in the way you were. So look, I think from that, Peter, bless him, would always say that the rhizome grows, and I think from that it has. So hopefully I'm passing that inspiration on to some of my younger team, and they're carrying on for us, Phil, when we're sat in the Caribbean smoking cigars and drinking champagne.
Let's hope. That's that's a great idea. A great thought. Okay. Well, on that note, Carl, say goodbye and thank you once again. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.